When did Your Holiness meet His Holiness Jayapataka Swami for the first time?
I met Jayapataka Maharaj the first time the day I arrived in Mayapur. I arrived in Mayapur in the evening, during the evening Arati time, when the Kirtan was going on. I don't know who was leading the Kirtan. I was not really so concerned about the Kirtan, only I was aware of the vibration of the vibrant Kirtan. But then when the Jayadhani was being given, it was Jayapataka Maharaj who was giving the Jayadhani. And I saw his towering personality standing above all the devotees lying on the floor, and he was giving the Jayadhani, which at that time sounded like an endless chore. And it was very impressive to see an American person going on with all these Sanskrit expressions. So that was my first impression of Jayapataka Maharaj and the day I arrived in Mayapur.
What can you tell us about His Holiness Jayapataka Swami during the early days in India and basically Mayapur and Calcutta?
Yes, Jayapataka Maharaj was the personality behind Mayapur project. Jayapataka Maharaj and Bhavananda Maharaj, they were two co-directors of Mayapur at that time. Bhavananda Maharaj was mostly involved in Mayapur, but Jayapataka Maharaj was very much involved in preaching and arranging things, especially funds. And my first impression was, after I joined Mayapur, that Jayapataka Maharaj was the integral part of the management of Mayapur. And his heart was completely committed to Mayapur project. I heard at the early days there were not so many facilities. That was even before I joined. They were living in a hut. There was no vehicles. Like Jayapataka Maharaj used to commute between Mayapur and Krishnanagar in a bicycle, and like that. Like from the very beginning of Mayapur project, Jayapataka Maharaj was involved, and he was completely committed to Mayapur project. And as we mentioned about Calcutta, those days, in the early days, the relationship between Mayapur and Calcutta was not very conducive. Calcutta was the place where they're collecting money, and Mayapur was the place where they needed the money. And Calcutta was the base of Gargamuni, who was the GBC, and Gargamuni was famous for his miserly nature, and even Prabhupada used to call him Gargamani. And Jayapataka Maharaj used to go to Calcutta and used to persuade Gargamuni to give money, and Gargamuni would find various reasons of not to give money, and it was not a very pleasant relationship. And I used to feel very disturbed, and and that is the time, in a way, I started to identify myself more with Mayapur than with Calcutta. Of course, I joined in Mayapur and I was a part of Mayapur, but I used to spend a lot of time in Calcutta because my service for Mayapur actually needed my being in Calcutta. I used to come to Calcutta to buy the steel, buy cement, and make different arrangements. Even to buy stone chips, we had to come to Calcutta and make the arrangements of the shipment. They used to come from Bihar and Bengal-Bihar border, those stone chips. And besides that, I was also involved in printing Prabhupada's books, and as a result of that, I used to spend a lot of time in Calcutta. But those days, we, the Mayapur devotees, could not really completely identify ourselves with Calcutta so much because of this tension that was going on for the financial reasons. And Calcutta devotees sometimes, especially under some person's influences, they used to be Mayapur devotees, the Mayapur devotees, used to be seen as a kind of undesirable intruders in that area. So those days, Jayapataka Maharaj also was not really so much involved in preaching in Calcutta or identifying himself with the Calcutta management. But we used to come to Calcutta to get our work done. Jayapataka Maharaj used to come to Calcutta to collect money. We could not, or we did not collect as such, making life members in Calcutta. Gargamuni had his team of making life members. But when it came to giving money, which was Prabhupada's instruction, Prabhupada actually wanted Calcutta to give the money to Mayapur. But there was some sort of resistance and reluctance on their part, which did create a little bit of disharmony between these two centers.
What are the features in his personality that you like the most?
Well, anyone who knows Jayapataka Maharaj knows that he is a very, very likable person. He is very, very caring. He is very friendly. He is very warm. He is very compassionate. So all these qualities are very wonderfully manifest in Jayapataka Maharaj. Therefore, naturally, he is a very likable person. And if you ask what is the most impressive quality of Jayapataka Maharaj, I must say that his compassion. He is an extremely compassionate person. He is a very caring person. From the early days, I saw that how Jayapataka Maharaj was so concerned about all the devotees. And I personally also had a very wonderful experience. Like at one time, it was about a month after I joined Mayapur. Actually, I went to Mayapur just as a visitor, and I just ended up joining the very next day. I shaved up and became a devotee. And there was a concern in my family that what happened, and I wrote to them. I wrote to my father, and my father wrote back saying that, there are a few things that I need to take care, so they needed me. So I was going to Calcutta, but that day I had a little disagreement with one devotee, and then I left for Calcutta without telling anybody. And devotees thought that because I had that disagreement or kind of misunderstanding with conflict with a devotee, that I left. So at that time, Jayapataka Maharaj was not there in Mayapur. He was preaching. So when he came back the next day, he got to know that I left. And he became very, very hurt, and he became very concerned. And in Mayapur, when I joined, we had to fill in a form, and in that form my home address in Calcutta was there. So Jayapataka Maharaj took that address and he came to Calcutta to meet me. So that day I was kind of away. I left in the morning. Actually, when I came back to Calcutta after Mayapur, most of the time I was with my friends, my old friends, and I used to preach to them, and I thought that I would try to convince them to become devotees. So like that, the whole day I was out, and Jayapataka Maharaj came a few times, and when I went back home, my father told me that Jayapataka Swami came to look for me, and he came for a few times. And So when I heard that, it was already quite late, around 9:30, 10 o'clock. So I couldn't go, but I felt so bad that he came to see me and I was not at home. I was feeling very guilty. So that night only, early morning, around 3 o'clock, I just left home and went to the temple. Actually, I left at 3 o'clock knowing well that the Mangalartik will be at 4:30, because I thought that maybe I won't get a taxi, so I'll have to walk. So I left early. And also I was so eager to meet Jayapataka Maharaj that when I woke up, I just took my bath and left for the temple. And I remember when I arrived in Calcutta temple, everything was closed. And I was just sitting outside waiting for them to open the door. And so finally they opened the door and I attended Mangalarati and I met Jayapataka Maharaj and I apologized to him that he went and I was not there. And Jayapataka Maharaj told me that why I left. I told him that actually I had to come to Calcutta to do some work and I had to my father actually wrote to me that few things needed to be done, and so he needed my presence. And I also, at that time I realized that it was actually the disagreement that I had with a devotee, one of my god brothers there, that made them think that I actually left being disheartened. And then Jayapataka Maharaj said, come, I am leaving right after Mangalarati, you also come along. So I said, look, I haven't told my father. I should at least go and tell him. And Jayapataka Maharaj told, father, you had so many fathers in so many lives. This father also you'll forget. So don't worry about it. Let's go to Mayapur. And so I just took his words and just practically in one clothes I just left again. I left with him and we drove together in Mayapur. So this actually gave a very, very deep impression in my mind, like how caring he is. Like I was just a devotee, joined for a few weeks, and because I left, he actually took the trouble to come all the way to Calcutta to take me back to Mayapur.
Do you remember something that Srila Prabhupada said in front of you about His Holiness Jayapataka?
Yes, Srila Prabhupada said many things about Jayapataka Maharaj. Naturally, and Jayapataka Maharaj was very, very dear to Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhupada used to consider Jayapataka Maharaj to be his very dear child, very dear son, his prized possession. Like Mayapur was the main project of Srila Prabhupada. Naturally, it was the birthplace of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Jayapataka Maharaj was the person who had the entire responsibility to develop Mayapur project. When Prabhupada started Mayapur project, he sent Jayapataka Maharaj, and Jayapataka Maharaj committed himself completely, and Prabhupada was very, very pleased with him for his dedication and commitment to Mayapur project. And I used to notice whenever Jayapataka Maharaj came to Vrindavan those days, when Prabhupada was quite sick and Prabhupada was in Vrindavan, whenever Jayapataka Maharaj came, like Prabhupada, when he got the news that Jayapataka Maharaj came, Prabhupada would immediately send for him and inquire from him about Mayapur, how things are happening. And he used to give so many instructions to Jayapataka Maharaj, how to manage the place, how to cultivate the local people, how to preach Krishna consciousness. And I used to see, to me it seemed that Prabhupada was very concerned about the development of Mayapur project and propagation of Krishna consciousness movement in Bengal. And he was depending a lot on Jayapataka Maharaj for that. Like he himself couldn't do that. So he was actually counting on Jayapataka Maharaj. And he gave him so many instructions that you preach all over Bengal and you'll become so famous. And I also remember once Prabhupada told that if Jayapataka Maharaj committed himself to preaching in Bangladesh, then Bangladesh will become Krishna conscious. And like in this way, Prabhupada gave so many wonderful instructions to Jayapataka Maharaj, and we could see that how important a role Jayapataka Maharaj played in Srila Prabhupada's preaching mission.
As you were Srila Prabhupada's secretary, what did Srila Prabhupada say about his services?
Prabhupada was very pleased with Jayapataka Maharaj's commitment and dedication to Mayapur project, and he was very pleased that Jayapataka Maharaj was focusing all his attention around Mayapur. Like those days, Jayapataka Maharaj was not spending so much time in Mayapur as such. Like as I said, like Bhavananda Maharaj was most of the time in Mayapur. But Jayapataka Maharaj was there to make arrangements for Mayapur. Making Mayapur the center, he was doing things, preaching, book distribution, and food distribution program, and cultivating people, dealing with politicians, dealing with lawyers, dealing with the local Muslims, local people. And also when he was there, he was so concerned about Mayapur's welfare. And and Prabhupada was, we could see that for Prabhupada, Jayapataka Maharaj was the person to develop Mayapur project. And he always encouraged us to serve under Jayapataka Maharaj. Like I was, of course, with Srila Prabhupada all the time, but when devotees would come from Bengal, or even devotees came from the West, Prabhupada would tell them, if they wanted to spend time in India, often Prabhupada would tell them, go to Mayapur and help Jayapataka Swami.
In which area of preaching or service, according to you, His Holiness Jayapataka Swami has been successful?
Jayapataka Maharaj is, one could see that Jayapataka Maharaj is a preacher. He is a preacher. And he made his mission to preach in Bengal. And in the early days we used to see that what an endeavor he used to make to learn Bengali language. Jayapataka Maharaj did not really sit with books and learn the language as such, but he would just go out of his way to speak to people in Bengali. And in this way he was actually learning the language. And I could see that what an expertise he developed over the language. And he would converse with the local Bengalis in a very, very simple language. The language that they speak, the local villagers speak, Jayapataka Maharaj used to speak the language in that way. And he also used to speak while others used to get translated. Other senior devotees in Mayapur, American devotees, Western devotees, used to have a translator. Somebody had to translate. They would speak in English and they would translate. But Jayapataka Maharaj would directly speak to those people in Bengali. And he would preach when we'd go to programs. Jayapataka Maharaj would speak in Bengali. And that was a big preaching. Like in Bengal those days, for an American to speak Bengali was an unique sight. And that's why Jayapataka Maharaj became so popular in Bengal, because he became famous all over Bengal as an American Swami who speaks fluent Bengali. And and his heart had been always very, very full of compassion for the living entities, which is another most important element, another most important quality for a preacher, compassion. And we can see like such deep compassion Jayapataka Maharaj had for all the devotees, all the people. And those days, of course, Jayapataka Maharaj was focused around Bengal and Mayapur. But then later on, Jayapataka Maharaj, when he started to travel, his preaching area extended all over the world. And we could see, like, wherever he went, his main concern was to bestow his mercy upon the conditioned souls and give them Krishna consciousness.
You all have been working together in many areas, including management as GBC. What can you tell us about the activities of His Holiness Jayapataka Swami in these areas?
Yes. My impression was that Jayapataka Maharaj was not really so interested in managing. He was more of a preacher, and he used to give people ideas, he used to give them direction, and he wanted local devotees to manage. And I think that is what Srila Prabhupada expected out of the GBCs, to give the direction and to the local devotees and manage, and not get into the nitty-gritties or details of management. So I would say, he used to manage through preaching. He used to preach, he used to give them Krishna consciousness, he used to give them the ideas, he used to give them the vision, and he used to inspire them to achieve those visions. And of course, I also saw him struggling to manage Mayapur when there was financial difficulties. In the early days, Mayapur did not have any source of income. And Mayapur had to depend mainly upon Calcutta, and the management in Calcutta was not really very favorable to supporting Mayapur. And he had difficulties, and he had to undergo a lot of humiliation also at times. Like, he would go ask for money, and the people who were sitting with the money, the devotees in management, they would say, well, we don't have any money to give you. And then Jayapataka Maharaj often had to tell Prabhupada that this is their attitude, and Prabhupada then would interfere and force them to transfer the money to Mayapur from Calcutta. And but besides that, the integral part of management as such, it was always a wonderful experience to work with Jayapataka Maharaj, because he is a very warm and a very friendly and a very kind person. Therefore, it has always been a treat to work with him. Like, he always he loved to work as a team. He was not so much giving direction, do this, do that. His mood was something like, let us do that together. And he was shouldering all the responsibilities, all the difficult parts, he was shouldering upon himself, taking upon his own shoulder. But at the same time, the fun of doing things together, he kind of shared with all those who were around him. And that is how we were actually managing, and we were serving Srila Prabhupada. And he was very protective, like Mayapur. And another thing about his management is, he didn't hesitate to call a spade a spade. Sometimes some people would come up with some undue proposal, so unfavorable proposal or impractical suggestion. And Jayapataka Maharaj would immediately cut him short, say, don't waste our time, just get lost. So that is Jayapataka Maharaj, very straightforward, very open.
Please can you narrate to us some stories about His Holiness Jayapataka Swami that we all will be delighted to hear, as the one you mentioned in your report after your visit to Bhakti Vedanta Hospital that you posted on Pan Hall. Some similar stories are very much inspiring.
Yeah. Well, maybe I can reiterate those stories a little more elaborately. Uh, one incident that is very vivid in my memory is how protective Jayapataka Maharaj was about Mayapur devotees, Mayapur project. And those days, Mayapur had mostly Western devotees. And there was a devotee called Abhimanyu. He was from the British Army. He was a commando in the British Army. And he was a very agile, very naturally a very fit and powerful person. I remember he used to jump just to show his commando trainings. He used to jump from the second floor to the landing of the staircase with the ease like that of a cat, and he would just fall and then stand up straight away. So Abhimanyu was the security in charge. So one day, one night, we were actually sitting at Jayapataka Maharaj's room. We were discussing about something. We used to spend most of the times in the evenings. We used to be together in Jayapataka Maharaj's room, upstairs on the roof. And so Abhimanyu came running, said that we have been attacked in the Goshala. Our cows have been attacked by the Muslims. And sometimes we used to think that Abhimanyu used to suffer from paranoia. Jayapataka Maharaj used to tell him, although he was an army person, but somehow he used to be very easily alarmed. But that time we could see that something was very, very critical. So Jayapataka Maharaj said, we immediately jumped up. He asked Tapomai to get all the sticks together. Tapomai was another fearless devotee. Madhusavita Prabhu was there. So we all just picked up the sticks, and some of the sticks had spears on top, and some are bare sticks and some are spears. And we just collected those sticks and spears, and we ran from the Lotus building towards Goshala. There was no road as such, like through the field. We just ran to the Goshala and shouting. And when we arrived there, whoever came to attack or whatever, they just ran away. And I still remember, we were running, but who was on the lead of the team? It was Jayapataka Maharaj. We were running faster as we could, but he was way ahead of us. So that is Jayapataka Maharaj, always there to protect Mayapur project, protect every single aspect of Mayapur project. Then one time we used to often go to the bank of the Ganges, and we used to just go to the Ganges and swim. But then came Guru Kripa and his Namhat. They were a bunch of ruffians. And Guru Kripa was an ex-Vietnam veteran. He was a Vietnam veteran. And he has this group called Namhat. They were preaching mainly in Japan and collecting a lot of money. And they were giving a lot of money to Vrindavan project. Vrindavan temple was just built. And then Bombay. And Guru Kripa's famous Namhat group came. They're all tough Americans. Guru Kripa would select only the tough characters. The only mild character in that team was Bhanu Maharaj. Those days, he was not a sannyasi. And he was just the exception to Guru Kripa's team. He was so gentle and so calm and composed. And he used to take care of the deities. And so we used to go to the Ganges. When we used to go, the Mayapur devotees would go into the Ganges in a team. And we would spend hours together. Like we would lie on the Ganges, smear the Ganga mud on our body and let the mud soak in the sun and it would stick to the body. And then we would go to the river and take a swim. Sometimes we would float 1 or 2 kilometers downstream. Like we would walk a long distance and then we would get into the river and then float along the river for 1 or 2 miles, and then we would come up and walk to the temple. So that used to be our pastimes in the Ganges. But when Guru Kripa came, another pastime started. Like they were all ruffians, tough characters, and they used to fight, wrestle, and not wrestle on the mud. Now wrestling on the Ganga mud is very, very, very difficult because the mud is slippery, and you tend to slip, and it was fun in a way, and I was not at all interested in that kind of activities. So I generally used to just watch them fight. So one day Guru Kripa insisted that I have to fight. I have to also come in and fight. And so I started to fight with one American devotee. And anyway, in no time I was defeated. And they were just roaring with delight and laughter, that as if it was their victory over Mayapur. And Jayapataka Maharaj couldn't stand that. So he stood up and he said, "Come, any one of you come." I gave it. And I could see that he was so furious that the way they treated me, that he just whoever was fighting with him, within a short while, Jayapataka Maharaj just pinned him to the ground and he just started to hit him with his hand in the mud. And so that is how wonderfully protective Jayapataka Maharaj was, and how he was so concerned about upholding the pride of Mayapur. And another incident that was very vivid in my mind is, sometimes we used to swim across the river Ganges, and there is a technique of swimming, like you just go along the current. You don't swim straight. You go along the current and move in a tangent. So that way you can actually swim very easily and go to the other bank. Now, Adirura was also swimming. But when you are swimming in a river with current, the one danger is panic. Many a times people, although they know how to swim, get drowned because they panic. And Adirura, his name was Adirura, now is Radha Jivan Prabhu. Radha Jivan was Adirura those days. So Adirura panicked and he started to scream out for help. And then who came to his rescue? Jayapataka Maharaj. And took him from the midstream to the river. Jayapataka Maharaj was an excellent swimmer. He was very athletic. Those days I remember Jayapataka Maharaj was very agile. He was tall and slim and very powerful individual. He used to swim across Ganges with ease. When he used to swim in the Pukur, Prabhupada's Pukur in front of Prabhupada's Samadhi, often he used to go to swim there also. And he used to swim with butterfly strokes, go back and forth. Butterfly is a very difficult stroke. And he was also he was a champion marksman. Like, of course, we didn't shoot guns, but once some devotees brought some power bows. They're kind of, you can pull the bows by mechanically and then shoot the arrows. They go with a tremendous speed, like those arrows. And sometimes we used to practice the on a target. And Jayapataka Maharaj was such a fantastic marksman. They're called, I think, crossbows. Yeah, he used to hold it like a cross, and then mechanically, it was you kind of wind it and pull it back, and then you release the arrow. And Jayapataka Maharaj, most of the time, he used to just hit the bullseye. and then later on, only he once told me that he was a champion marksman in his college days. And there's so many wonderful memories. And Jayapataka Maharaj, after Calcutta incidents, Jayapataka Maharaj decided that he should keep me with him. So wherever he was going, he would take me with him. He didn't leave me alone in Mayapur because he was worried that again somebody will mistreat me and I will leave. So he was very afraid. So, and those days, for Mayapur, we got some Mercedes buses. And I think 2 Mercedes buses we got for preaching in the villages, Sankirtan. And the only book we used to distribute those days in Bengal were Gita Gan. We used to sell them for 1 rupee. That was the only book we had. And of course, I printed some Bhagavad Darshan magazines. There was no other books, and we used to go out, distribute books. And Jayapataka Maharaj used to take me with him. He used to go to make life members. And he used to take me with him to make the life members. Sometimes somebody wanted to come with us. Jayapataka Maharaj used to say, no, 3 is not a good number. Better we go 2 of us. So in this way, I had the good fortune of being with him all the time. And we had some other funny incidences also. Those days we got a big supply of ghee from Australia. And this Australian ghee were pure ghee from Australia. And we had some ghee in our vans also. While we were traveling, we carried some ghee. And the devotee who was in charge of cooking, he naturally had the ghee also in his custody. Now one day we were making some program in a place in North Bengal, and so the local people wanted to cook for us. And then they made the halwa. And the halwa was delicious. I mean, it was really, it was one delicious halwa and dripping with ghee. And we all were very appreciative. Jayapataka Maharaj also was saying, a fantastic halwa. We must learn how to make this halwa from them. And then we called the cook and found out, and he said the formula was as much suji, as much semolina you take, you add that much ghee also in it. And afterwards, Jayapataka Maharaj found out that he used our Australian ghee to make that halwa. And he was very, very upset. And he told the cook or the person who was in charge of cooking that he cannot have the ghee anymore. So then he also told the story of a disciple arranging for spiritual master, and he made all first class arrangement. And then when Guru said that "Oh, it was very nice, this arrangement you made." His reply was, "All by your mercy, Gurudev." And so everything was, he was saying, giving the credit to Gurudev, "All by your mercy, Gurudev." And then finally Gurudev found out that his whole bank account has been used up by making all the arrangement, which was all by your mercy, Gurudev. So this halwa also was all by your mercy, Gurudev. So so those days were glorious days. It's unfortunate that after Prabhupada's disappearance, we became so busy. Jayapataka Maharaj had to take up so much responsibilities that we couldn't really spend that kind of time together. But the memories of those early days are very, very wonderful.
What can you say about His Holiness Jayapataka Swami after the stroke? How you felt and what came to your mind?
Actually, it was a mixed feeling. It was a very shocking experience. Like when it happened, I was actually staying next to Jayapataka Maharaj's room. He was in room 507 and I was in 509. And as I came out of my room for Mangalartik, to go to Mangalartik, I saw quite a few devotees standing there. So I thought, well, they're probably waiting for Jayapataka Maharaj to come out. But then my servant told me that Jayapataka Maharaj became very sick. So I immediately rushed into his room and I saw that he was unconscious. And at that time my feeling was I couldn't really take it that seriously. I felt that probably he was exhausted and he became tired and unconscious. And but then when I saw that the ambulance people were there, so then it occurred to me that it's something very serious. So they carried him and the ambulance people carried him downstairs, took him to an ambulance. Bhakti Purushottam Maharaj, Brajahari Prabhu, Maharaj's servants, they all accompanied him in the ambulance. And I followed him in another car. There was a devotee from Bombay who drove me to Hinduja Hospital. And actually, I arrived just as the ambulance also arrived behind, because we lost our way. It took us a little longer time. But since the ambulance was moving slower, we practically I arrived at a time when Jayapataka Maharaj was being carried to the emergency ward. And after preliminary check-up in the emergency ward, the initial report was nothing serious. So we felt very relieved that there was nothing serious. There was no problem with the heart, and it was not so serious. But then afterwards, when he was taken to the intensive care and the doctors came, that was early in the morning. So it was just in the emergency department, some junior doctor checked him. But when the senior departmental heads, the head of the cardiology and brain person came, they decided to take a CT scan. So that was at around 7 o'clock, and the CT scan revealed that he got a stroke on the stem. And the doctors actually explained to us what that actually meant. And their assessment was, their feeling was, that in a situation like that, one does not survive. Patient doesn't survive. And there is nothing they can do also. Had it been, the doctor's point was, had it been in any other part of the brain, and no matter how serious that stroke was, they could do something. They could operate. But this stem is such a serious area where all the nerves from the brain are converging and then they are diverging into the spinal column. So that is a very, very critical area, and they do not touch that area. So the doctor's thing was that we can't do anything. And the only possibility is just, they say that depend upon Krishna. And then they also mentioned that most cases the patients don't survive, and if they survive, they become paralyzed. But although the doctor said that, deep in my heart I had a feeling that he'll be all right. Because I knew that, I felt that, a strong conviction that if he's a devotee of Krishna, so Krishna will protect him. And all that is happening to him is just Krishna's plan. Krishna may have some divine plan which will be unfolded in course of time. And so that was the situation. Then one devotee told, I think Bhakti Purushottam Maharaj actually suggested that there is a person in Navadip who can actually, by chanting mantra, cure. So he was contacted, but that person didn't speak English. So since I was there, they just called me and asked me to speak to him. So I spoke to him and I told him about Jayapataka Maharaj's ailment. And what he said also gave me a lot of assurance. And his first word was actually that he is a devotee of Krishna. Krishna will take care of him. Don't worry. He'll become all right. So I came out and the devotees were waiting. Oh, yeah, another thing he wanted to do is he wanted me to hold the phone in front of Jayapataka Maharaj's ears and he would chant some mantra. So he did that, and then I came out and I kind of, with full conviction, I just told the devotees who were waiting on the lobby just outside the intensive care unit that don't worry, he'll become all right. And the devotees were so excited, they just all shouted, Jai! And since then I had a very strong conviction that Jayapataka Maharaj will become all right. And then another critical time was that
next evening called me and asked me to come down to Gopal Krishna Maharaj's room. And when I went there, I found there was Gopal Krishna Maharaj, Brajahari Prabhu, Devakinandan Prabhu, and a few other senior devotees. And the consideration was that Gopal Krishna Maharaj just received a message from Ashok Hinduja, the owner of Hinduja Hospital, that the neurologist, the head neurologist of Hinduja Hospital and the head neurosurgeon, both of them confided in him that Jayapataka Maharaj would not survive. So that's why Gopal Krishna Maharaj wanted to have a meeting. But when I heard that, my strong feeling was that Jayapataka Maharaj cannot leave now. He will become all right. So I very strongly expressed my conviction that no matter what the doctors say, but he'll become all right. And Gopal Krishna Maharaj also agreed with me and expressed his strong conviction that he'll become all right. So that was my feeling. In one hand, it was shocking, it was painful to see him in that condition, but at the same time, I had a deep conviction that he would become all right.
What can you say about His Holiness Jayapataka Swami after his miraculous recovery and constant preaching, even if he is temporarily physically limited?
That is a sign of a pure devotee. A pure devotee, in whichever condition he is in, he simply spreads the glory of Krishna. He simply tries to benefit the conditioned souls and deliver the living entities from this material bondage. And this is how wonderfully Jayapataka Maharaj, this principle Jayapataka Maharaj is so wonderfully demonstrating. That in one hand his condition is so handicapped, apparently, in such a difficult situation. But we can see that he is not affected by his body. That is a sign of a pure devotee. He is not affected by the condition of his body. His consciousness is pure. He is in pure Krishna consciousness. Therefore, all the time he is spreading the glory of Krishna and preaching his message all over the world.
What would you advise the devotees and basically the followers of His Holiness Jayapataka Swami?
The first thing I would say that you become aware of your good fortune, that you have such a wonderful spiritual master. You have such a glorious spiritual master. And understand the wonderful spirit that he is demonstrating, a wonderful spirit of Krishna consciousness that he is demonstrating through this wonderful pastime. And this is how he is actually teaching us how to use the last drop of our energy in spreading Krishna consciousness, just as Srila Prabhupada did. He used the last drop of his energy in spreading Krishna consciousness. And in a similar way, Jayapataka Maharaj also is demonstrating. In spite of all kinds of physical difficulties, he is carrying on, pushing Krishna consciousness. And he already demonstrated a miracle. That miracle is that when everybody thought that it is impossible for a person to survive in such a situation after such a stroke, it is impossible for somebody to become all right again. Their understanding is even if he survived, he would become paralyzed. Yes, Jayapataka Maharaj is facing some physical difficulties. But one thing is sure, that his consciousness is completely pure. His consciousness is completely unaffected. His memory is intact. His thought process is absolutely perfect. And he is in pure Krishna consciousness. So physical difficulties are there, but he hasn't been affected by that. Just like the body is just the covering. But inside that body, doesn't matter, irrespective of the condition of the body, there's a pure spirit soul who is simply concerned about spreading the glory of Krishna and serving Krishna. So this is how glorious a spiritual master you have. So follow his footsteps and make him as your ideal and become like him.
Is there anything that you always wanted to say about His Holiness Jayapataka Swami that you never had a chance and that now you have it, you want to share it with us?
Yes, at a time like this, I feel that I haven't properly expressed my appreciation for him. Like when we are together, we somehow don't feel the need, or somehow don't find the way to express our heartfelt gratitude and appreciation. So this is what I want to express now, is my heartfelt gratitude to Jayapataka Maharaj for all that he has done for my spiritual life, and my appreciation, my heartfelt appreciation for him, for all that he is doing for this world.